My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Remembering Woodstock. And as always, with me today is my good friend and co-host, Vince Lupo from the Los Angeles-based Rolling Stones tribute band, Mick Adams and the Stones. And we've been talking, of course, about Woodstock, and I was just reading today that Woodstock is about to turn 51 years old, so happy birthday, Woodstock. And today we're going to be specifically talking about Santana. And now let's get right into it. Vince, how big of a Santana fan are you?
I love Santana. And well, first of all, thanks for having me again.
Of course.
Love Santana. Always have, always will. And as you and I have already talked on the side, one of my dear friends, Benito, Meshulam from San Diego, and I had been performing many of these songs in a blues band, but we incorporated a lot of Santana, so I'm familiar with a lot of this firsthand.
Okay.
And it's such fun music. Really moves you. So go ahead, start me off.
Okay, so let's just get into it right there. As far as being a musician yourself, it's played some of this music. Now, have you played a combination like of the classic stuff, like going back to the '60s when Santana was just getting going, or have you played a lot of the newer stuff as well?
Well, most of the stuff that we did was from the first 2 or 3 albums.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Moonflower, Samba Petit, with some of the stuff is a little on the newer side. But, of course, stuff from the first 2 albums was the bulk, Abraxas, and the first album, Santana.
And let me ask you, Vince, as a drummer, what's it like to kind of play some of those Latin beats? Because, like I said, kind of your main gig is... is playing the music of the Rolling Stones, and Santana is quite different because while it's rock music, it's almost got like a Latin fuse to what they do.
Well, there's a lot of Latin infusion, of course.
Yeah.
And through them, and with playing with a couple of other Latin bands through time, you have to learn some of the different styles. The samba style, completely different.
Yeah, I would think so.
The salsa, cumbia, the bossa nova. It's all similar but yet different to one another, the beats, And as a child, my mom was a dancer, so she taught me how to do the bossa nova and the merengue and those as a child.
Yeah.
As an 8, 10, 12-year-old kid. So that was always a part of the rhythm that's built into me. But learning that style it's completely
different. Yeah.
Oh, completely different. It's like jazz is different.
Yeah.
Swing is different. This is completely different. Has a whole different feel.
I mean, even like playing like the Rolling Stones music. I mean, you're gonna have people up at the gigs, kind of dancing and rocking and get off to the music. But I mean, this is almost a different scene as far as I'm sure you got a lot more girls in the audience dancing and kind of doing that Latin kind of dancing, and it's just a totally different vibe from what you typically.
It sure is. And one thing, from playing back some of this music, I went back and played. I went on their website, on the Woodstock website.
Yeah.
And went down the list of the songs that they played that day, all from the first album, which still hadn't been released. It was released after.
Yeah.
They were completely unknown when they went on stage.
Yeah.
But apparently, from reading, I missed the whole performance because it was the day before. Full day before.
It's like, oh man, if I'd only known, huh?
No, really, one of those things.
Yeah.
But their music overtook the crowd. One thing I can tell you about their music is it has this tribal, free-flowing feeling to dance to. The drumming, all the timbales and the congas, all that stuff. The 1 or 2 chords in whole songs that just free flow. Your body just moves. So whether you want to dance in the sunlight, free yourself, or dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. The music just takes you in a place that
maybe you've never been before.
That hadn't existed before they existed.
Yeah, what's interesting is, of course, like a lot of people, I'm aware of Carlos Santana and who he is, and who can deny what a great guitar player he is. But I tell you, like you, I got on that great Woodstock website, www.woodstock.com, and I was checking out the set list like you, Vince, and it did say that this is one of their very first performances. A lot of people were not aware of who they were, and so it's kind of interesting if you look at the people that played that that whole event. You got bands like Santana were just kind of up and coming stars at the time, went on to become legendary artists in their own right, and then you got a band maybe like Sweetwater. They're kind of like a small footnote in the history of rock and roll in Woodstock, but they got their place there too. But I mean, this little tiny band, look at the legends that they went on to become.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite things of them are all of those rhythms put together, all the drumming, all the different types of percussion and drums, just right up my alley.
Yeah, what's interesting about it, because I'll tell you, when I went on the Woodstock website and I'm looking at the list of songs they played a total of 8 songs, and I went and listened to each of these songs, and I'm kind of like, because this was back in 1969, I hadn't heard a lot of these tunes, so I'm kind of hearing it for the first time. It's like listening to a new album. And the interesting thing is, like I said, I know Carlos Santana. He gets rave reviews for his guitar playing. He's a great guitar hero and all that. But it's kind of interesting listening to these songs. These 8 songs are on the set list that day, because as great of a guitar player as he is, it's not the music's not heavily centered around the guitar like necessarily. It's like mostly the drum rhythms is what you hear, and it's kind of interesting for a guy who's a world-class guitar player. He allows everybody in the band to kind of shine, and the drums, like I said, for him being a guitar hero, the drums on this stuff are really front and center.
Absolutely, and in fact, just to highlight the next to last song, apparently, Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah.
That drum solo. Now there have been very famous drum solos.
Yeah.
In the late 60s and throughout in the mid 70s, of course, Ginger Baker and all this
Gene
stuff.
Krupa, I would think. Even I heard people talk about him.
Who was that?
Gene Krupa.
Well, that was from before.
Way before.
Was the 40s. I'm talking about in the rock era.
Okay, yeah.
So Michael Shreve at Woodstock did that really famous now drum solo in Soul Sacrifice. Yeah. And Shreve at Woodstock then was my age.
Wow.
17.
Wow.
17 years old, and that kid was incredible.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredible. Very, very proud of that moment for him.
Yeah.
And the band really pulled it off. That one performance made them superstars.
Yeah, and going to the very last song, I just got to tell you, before I even heard it, I wanted to hear it, as you can imagine, just based on the song title alone, because I tell you, I don't think you'd be allowed to have a song title like that these days, but I mean, it's called Fried Neck Bones and Some Home Fries.
Oh, yeah. It's actually very, very good. Very, very good, too. And when I played it, I was like, I vaguely remember this one because I haven't played the album in ages.
Yeah.
But so I've played, from this album, I've played Waiting, Evil Ways.
Oh, that's cool, too, Evil Ways.
Savor, Jingo, Persuasion, Soul Sacrifice. I've played a lot of this album at other times.
Yeah.
And my all-time favorite track from that album is Jingo.
Oh, it's funny you were going to say that, because that's the next song I was going to bring up, because to me, I listened to that, and again, the title, Jingo, kind of, that's an interesting title. What is that? But then I listened to it, and it almost has kind of a combination of Aladdin, kind of, black type of R&B music to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very tribal.
Yeah, that's
those
it.
Heavy drums.
Yeah.
Do, just really grabs you. The simplicity of it is what really grabs you.
Oh, yeah.
To me, the rhythm of it.
Well,
the way they built it.
Yeah, you're a drummer, that's why, so you must love that, where the song is really based around the drum as opposed to the guitar or even the vocal. See,
I do.
That's what's interesting about this music.
Live, that really gets people moving. There's just something about that type of song and that song that just carries you away. Just I think of Dancing in the Sunlight, the gals with the hippie dresses and the flowers in their hair and the beads just being free and flowing. Whether you're on something or not, you're just enjoying the music, and it takes you somewhere out of your body for those few minutes, and it pure magic.
And the 8 songs they played that day. I'll tell you what's interesting about each one of these songs. Okay, they kind of I think back in the day, bands really, when they would go in to record an album, it was important back in the day, back at that time, that all the album had to kind of have an overall flow. The songs kind of had to all flow together, have the kind, sound as they belonged on the same album. And not only do these songs kind of seem like they all fit together, on one album, but the interesting thing too about this music, besides being centered largely around the drum part, the drum playing, is while there are vocals throughout these songs, the vocal is not like the main instrument, where a lot of times when you're listening to a song, the vocal is the main thing you're listening to. What is the guy singing about? What is he saying? Or that's not necessarily the case with these songs here.
Not at all. This is Latin pop music, Latin pop rock, and it's all riff driven. The chordal riff driven. So there's maybe only a simplicity to it of 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 different chords to most of these songs. It's more about the rhythm and the riff, and in a sense, they're kind of like the Stones of their type, because the riff master Keith Richards, that's what he's known for, creating these riffs that these songs are written and arranged around. The same thing with these Santana songs. Got a riff or 2 or a feel or 2, and that's it. Just take that song off. Everybody's got a solo here and there, and it's just great music. Just
and because
it makes your blood go.
And because Carlos Santana is known as a guitar god that he is. He's got a band where he's constantly having band members come and go, but it doesn't seem to matter because he's the main guy. It doesn't matter if he has a different singer from album to album, because the musicians that are in that band that have come over the years, they're like the same caliber of musicians. Everybody kind of gets their moment to shine,
Right. Exactly. Carlos gives space to everyone.
I mean, let's not forget at one point
they all do a little bit of something. The percussion stuff, great. Greg Raleigh. Let's talk about Greg Raleigh.
Yeah, let's do it, because I mean, his keyboards on these songs I was listening to, these 8 songs today, the keyboards are also a big part of the music.
Very much so. His vocals are spot on when they have vocals.
Yeah.
Because about 2/3 of the songs don't have any vocals.
Yeah.
But he does. I actually got to speak to Greg Raleigh over the phone.
Oh, that's cool.
But you don't understand. From when I used to work at the Auto Trader when I first came back to California.
Oh, wow.
And needed a quick job. I had done sales before, so I got a lead to go to the Auto Trader. So I went there, and in my first year, I get a phone call from this guy. I want to sell a car from the 20s.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So I said, okay, what's your name? First name, Greg. Okay. What's your last name? Raleigh. Spell that for me. Rolie. And then I stopped.
You're like, that can't be.
And I stopped, and I said, the Greg Raleigh? He goes, yep, that's me.
Oh, wow.
So we did have, before we got into actually doing the work, I had a conversation with him about what it was like in Woodstock and all that stuff, So then we got to work, and we thanked one another. Now, he was from the town I was living in, Poway.
Wow.
Poway, we moved to Poway a few years after this conversation had taken place. So my daughter, who's a graduate of there, went to school with his daughter.
Wow.
Yeah, she knew his daughter.
Well, think about that for a minute. I mean, the chances of that.
What are the chances of all of this, right? Yeah. Exactly. But Greg was kind to me over the phone. He was nice. And his keyboards on these songs. I think it was in 2 albums, the first 2, which are my 2 favorites because they're the 2 oldest and where the whole
thing
roots
started
of their sound come from. Right. Just added so much more. When you go back and you listen to these songs, you go, I didn't realize there was this much organ. B3 on these. Just wow, so much. And his voice is rich, and they had some nice harmonies when needed on Jingo. Go ba ba, go ba ba.
There you go.
Just all these different elements that he added. And he added. Now, to talk about my friend's group called Santana Ways.
Let's get into that.
One of my best friends, who's also in that band, his name is Ray Nichols, does a fantastic Greg Raleigh keyboard and vocals. You've never heard a guy sing like a bird like my friend Ray sings.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. And he's always loved Santana. So when we started putting these bands together back in the mid '90s with Ray, we started doing some Southern rock and these sorts of things. And he's like, but I love Santana. Years goes by. Years and years now. I get into doing the Stones thing back in late 2008 when it was first formed. So I started talking to Benito, who I've known forever since being on the West Coast since 93, 94. Benito, you look like Carlos. You play like Carlos.
Why don't you?
you adore Carlos. Why don't you do a tribute band? Oh, I don't know. It was like anything that you could think of that he didn't want to do it. So finally, I talked him into it, and he started to get serious and was looking for other players and the like. So he and Ray hooked up, and I'm so glad because what a perfect match.
Wow. That's interesting because the tribute thing is, if you're good at what you're doing, you can be pretty successful. It's easy to get gigs oftentimes, but I think it's great that you encourage them for a simple fact, Vince. One thing I think they definitely got going, while I know there's a couple of them out there, there's not a truckload of Santana tributes out there,
Not that where the guy looks and plays like Carlos. They're very few. And Benito is the genuine article when it comes to that. He's just and a great guy to boot. So they're having some success. Of course, we're all down in the water now.
Right now,
COVID. But I encourage you to get in touch with him.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah, you gave me his information, so I'll definitely get in touch with him.
Great, and we can do a follow up with him or however you'd like to do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And it's kind of interesting because talk about the 6 degrees of separation for a minute, or whatever however you want to put it. But like we were talking at the very beginning of this, Remembering Woodstock. The Rolling Stones, while they did not play Woodstock, they were one of the first bands offered to play. Now, and you're oddly enough, you go on to form a Rolling Stones tribute. Now you tell me that you're a bit of a Santana fan, and you played a role in your friend forming a Santana tribute. You played some of these Santana tunes over the years. It's just it's amazing how everything kind of comes together.
It's really true. It's all, we're all kind of interconnected, and the tentacles of life. You never know what life's going to bring you. Some of my favorites to play is Samba Pati. With Benito is this one Samba Pati. I had to learn that samba. Had to get that feel down. Which not natural, not necessarily. So that one, another one that they have that he has that's a few years older or newer is Moonflower. What a beautiful, beautiful song, and Benito just plays it fantastic. I've been very lucky. Talking to you, I already feel honored and lucky.
Well, I feel the same way because I'm even chatting with you over the internet today, and I'm thinking this guy, he's actually lived this. I'm kind of an observer, so it's two different perspectives. And like I said, while I'm aware of who Santana is, I'm not a diehard fan. I could probably name one or two songs, if even that. But listening to these tunes, it's kind of like listening to a new album for the very first time, and so I kind of got that perspective, as opposed to somebody that's heard these tunes, a million times. And I was kind of curious to ask your opinion on Santana too, because while this is like the classic stuff, the first two albums, going all the way back to Woodstock, in more recent years, some of his newer stuff is, been played all over the radio, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's gone commercial." What's your opinion on that? Because I don't necessarily see there's anything wrong with going commercial,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Later on in the year 2000, when I was still here, it was not well before. I was gotten into a dance band, doing just dance music, and some of this stuff made its way into. They have one, Game of Love, which is a well-known Santana tune. It is a commercial, one of the most commercial. It was a good-sized hit at the time, and fun to play. You have to understand that when you're performing live, there's two ways that you get immediate feedback from the audience. One is through applause and the cheers, sure, but when you see people dancing, that's to me the ultimate compliment. You have moved a person to move their body in time to the music that you are doing. So it has a certain feel. It has that's the feedback loop. People dance, makes you feel good because now you've gotten somebody's emotions. To
feed off of,
play along with yours.
Now let me ask you, Vince. Mick Adams of Stones, you guys recently played a gig, didn't you? Kind of like a COVID gig where I don't know if you were indoors or you didn't have an audience. Talk a little bit about that, because that's kind of an interesting thing, isn't it?
Sure. Well, we didn't play any Santana tunes.
No. But I'm just talking about as far as playing, like you said, to crowd.
I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah.
So, just an FYI for you listeners, if you would like to check out what happened, you can go on my Facebook page, which is Vince Lupo, and you'll see me. The avatar I have is standing in a suit with the white hair. Go on. I just posted.
Oh, great.
Pardon me. Reposted the full concert from the Exceptional Music Company, Ray McEwen and Kim McEwen, who take care of that. We were due to play on Catalina this summer.
Oh, wow.
And of course, that all got wiped out. We had been a staple on their concert series. And so this gentleman hooked up with doing a benefit for the first responders.
Oh, wow, that's great.
The fire department and such. So we got asked to do this at the Belly Up, which is in San Diego, a large music venue, the oldest of its kind, started in 1974.
That's going back for music.
Still going today.
Wow.
You can easily get 600 people, but crammed in. So there was nobody in the audience. No audience.
Wow, that's interesting.
4 cameras, 1 handheld, and 2 that were stationary, and 1 that went back and forth across the stage.
Oh, wow.
So and it was just us and the people that put on this event. They had an auction before we started, and we were able to raise, through all of us, $127,000 when we had gone off the air. It had gone up to that point.
And did you guys have any other bands playing that day, or just you?
No, it was just us.
Oh, what a great...
So it was the auction, and then a full 90-minute show that we put on, and it was mostly the hits. And a couple of others, but just an honor to be asked to do that.
Well, I'm sure, but and the reason I bring it up is I would think something like that, like you said, is very different. It'd almost be like, even though you're performing, as a band, it's almost like filming a movie because you don't have the crowd there to kind of feed off as you're saying. So what was that process like for you? It must have been very different.
Oh, that's a great point, and something that we talked about after. That the need to generate our own energy.
Yeah.
Our own energy. Now, when I look at the playback, I can still see the energy on the stage.
That's interesting, yeah.
Partly it's because we hadn't had a performance in months, so we just kind of let it out.
Yeah, that itch to get back up on stage, and that's kind of cool because it doesn't sound like, even though it's like filming a movie, let's say, you're still up on stage, you're still doing your thing, but it's not necessarily scripted. Like, we're not going to, okay, Vince, during Start Me Up, we're going to have you go into the drum solo, and it's got to be at this.
Yeah. So, if you guys want to check out the concert,
oh, definitely, yeah, we have to
go on my Facebook page. Jason, if you'd like to share it, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
But the full concert is there.
Oh, great.
The full 90 minutes live, very well shot, really good sound. I'm very proud of it, actually.
Well, you should be. I mean, especially if it's first time doing it. I'm gonna go check it out, but it doesn't sound like much rehearsal was needed, and you hadn't played it.
That was a great time, and also just so you know, and in the audience that you guys know, that there were, without anybody in the audience, they had everybody check in to do the temperature check. And they screened us, and so it was very, very safe. It was just a skeleton crew.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, okay.
That was good. So that made me feel good.
Yeah.
So, but these other events that may be coming up, will there be people not so good?
Yeah, you were telling me about that. They may get another drummer to fill in for those gigs.
That's for a little bit.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
Hopefully.
So at any rate, that's it. But back to Santana. Love Santana.
And let me ask you, Vince. In regards to Santana, I know you said you love the first two albums, but are there any of the later albums that you really love as well?
There's a live show that I love.
Okay.
I can't think of what it's called, but I think it's from the late 90s or the early 2000s.
Okay.
I think it's called Supernatural.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm aware of that. That's a good one.
What a concert.
Wow.
What a concert. And that's where you can really see the true power of what they do on stage. Just amazing. What a great concert. Anybody's into them, if you haven't seen it, you better see it.
Okay, that's one to definitely check out. Then and we can't be talking about Santana without mentioning, like you mentioned, some of the great musicians like Greg Rowley that have played in there. We can't forget to mention at one point, pre-Journey, we're talking about the guitar player from Journey, Neil Scone. He was
Neil Sean.
Yeah, he was in there.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely. He was a part of it, and of course, God bless Michael Shreve, still at it.
Yeah.
My age, still going strong.
Yeah.
Guy's incredible. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so
I'm a big fan, and in fact, when I saw that video, when I found out he was my age, I went, I could have done that.
Yeah. So, Vince, we talked a lot about what you do with Mick Adams and the Stones, but I was curious. I'm sure, like a lot of guys before, really doing your thing on the tribute scene, you tried to take a shot at becoming, doing the original thing. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, this is going back. Now, in the mid '80s, I learned some recording. I went to a recording school. I got certified as a recording engineer.
Oh, wow.
And I went to school for over 7 months to do it. And shortly after that was done, in about mid '84, a group of my friends who had just gotten back together said, "Hey, let's go in on some recording equipment." So a few of us helped engineer it. We all wrote originals. We all arranged the stuff on the fly, and we recorded over time. With me, before I moved to the West Coast, over 100 tunes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a couple that made commercials on the New York City scene.
Oh, wow.
The tri-state area.
Wow.
We made a couple of those out. We tried to get associated with the Mets back in the day with Doc Gooden. They didn't accept our song
Oh, wow.
at the time. Darn it! Yeah, we had stuff that was on the air there, and these are the guys that I think I've told you that I've known from high school.
Oh wow, that's
from high school. So still great friends with all of these guys today.
And let me ask you, with your kind of popularity with Mick Adams and the Stones, I mean, it would be kind of just a fun thing to do, but have you ever thought about trying, even just over the internet, posting any of that stuff or releasing it just kind of for fun?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. Only because from back in that day, it wouldn't have the same quality.
Oh yeah, like I said, if you did to do it, it'd just be maybe for fun. But talking about like doing commercials and soundtracks and film and stuff like that, you'd be surprised. A lot of those 80s like rock guys, that's what a lot of them making their money now. Just I know some guys that are they even do the music like when they during the sports events and stuff, and for TV shows. It's an amazing way for musicians that even one time had a career, to continue in the music industry, getting their music out there one way or the other.
That's true. Absolutely true. And we all have to keep going. This is not a career where you do 30 years, you put in your time, you get your pension, and hearty handshake, and good luck with the rest of your life. If you're a musician, you're a musician.
Yeah.
You just can't stop.
Oh yeah,
you can if you wished to.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming majority of people I know, this is who we are and what we do.
Oh, I'm sure, and just the current situation being what it is with COVID, like you kind of mentioned already, to do that first gig you guys recently did, you're saying like we just missed playing, on the stage. That had to be the greatest feeling on earth, to be up there.
It
finally.
Really did feel that good. It really did. It really and truly did.
Yeah.
But we just can't turn it on and off. It's part of who you are. It's how you're made.
Yeah.
It's from birth, perhaps.
So let me ask you, Vince, all these months of not playing before that gig, like if you continue to keep up with your drumming, do you still practice from time to time, or talk a little bit about that?
Well, just occasionally from time to time. But I've got a secret. My son, my stepson actually, my son, but I call him my son.
There you go, that's cool.
I've had him since he was 1.
Well, I guess he's your son then.
Is a bassist and guitarist, and he's got a buddy who's a guitar player who moved out here from North Carolina, and every now and then we get together, and my son's going to be home, coming home for 5-6 months to live here, so he can accumulate some money. We'll get to do plenty of playing together during that time. So we've had a few of those occasions, but Cody and I will have many more of those occasions over the next 6 months or so.
Oh, that's great to hear. So and
so, it's like riding a bike.
Yeah, and I think too it's interesting, in doing all these Remembering Woodstock shows with you. Like I said, you've got great stories to tell. You seem like you've always had your finger right on the pulse of music. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like you had the idea, hey, let's do one interview, talk about I attended Woodstock. I want to share that with you, and it's kind of turned into what it has. So far, we've done 5 episodes, and it's going to be quite a bit more because I wanted to kind of do an episode where we highlight each band that kind of played that day to get a little more oomph to it, a little more detail. And it seems like it's been working out great. But I mean, you take a band like just take some of these bands that played that day. I mean, the Grateful Dead, Creedence and Clearwater Revival, Santana. I mean, these are bands that all went on to have legendary careers. And then we've lost a few along the way, such as Jerry Garcia. But their music is still celebrated. And like you said, you started out as a fan, attending this event, started out as a fan of many of these bands. And talk a little bit about the tribute scene. I was kind of, when we talked last time about Jefferson, Jefferson Airplane, I was kind of thinking, because they're no small potato band. I mean, they became another legendary band, one of these legendary bands. Are you surprised, Vince, that there's not at least one Jefferson Airplane tribute band out there?
Oh, that's interesting. I am not surprised there are none. For one reason, Grace Slick is not easy to cover.
Oh, okay.
To have a Marty Ballin and a Grace Slick
it'd be
singers,
hard.
they're not easy. But there have been tribute bands that cover the San Francisco scene and the Summer of Love. That kind of stuff. So yes, that stuff is out there. There are several Grateful Dead bands.
And I got to ask, like I said, Jerry Garcia is no longer with us, and I don't think the Grateful Dead really still exists as it once did. I think they call it the Dead Company, and Bob Weir's kind of kept it going. What do you think of that? What they're doing with that?
You know what? Let them keep going, because what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
You know, they're called Dead and Company, and part of that, I believe, is what's the guitar player's name? I forget. Anyway, a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them, continued on. Mayer.
Okay.
What's his last name? Mayer. He's part of that as well.
Okay, and talking about tribute bands, I mean, one of the longest tribute bands out here in California was, I think there's one called Cubinus, which is a Grateful Dead tribute, but they've been always playing gigs constantly for years. I think they're like the premier tribute to the Dead.
Yes, and there was one in San Diego that's been around for like 30 years called the Electric Waste Band.
Electric Waste, wow.
And they didn't do too much other than they played a lot at one place called Winston's, which is down in Ocean Beach, a real throwback beach city. But they've been around for many years. Still, nothing like the Dead, and we'll get into the Dead. I hope next time.
Yeah, next time. That's what I was planning to do now. I also often visit that website you're talking about, www.woodstock.com. It's the official site for all things Woodstock, and I seen they kind of updated it recently. They got a lot of stuff about different political issues. So I don't know how into politics you are, Vince, but as regards to like getting involved with voting and that, how important do you think that is for people to kind of get involved or in something like that?
Well, I'm not super heavy into politics. But I can tell you this much: if you don't vote, then you can't complain. That I learned when I started voting. I started voting on a regular basis 35 years or so ago. And I heard that then. And it made sense. You know what? If I don't vote, I don't really have a say in what goes on.
That is the one thing I will agree there with you in regards to politics. And I found it very interesting going on the website, and it's kind of on the front page, all these different kind of social things they get involved with and social issues. And it's kind of a two-way street, because I think there's some of them are good and some of them are very bad. It just kind of depends, I guess, where you fall. But like I always have agreed with like what you just said. I don't think it should necessarily matter like who you're going to vote for, I vote for. But if you're going to complain about the way things are, at least get out and vote. And this is something I've heard all my life. I mean, I remember back in even the 80s and the 90s, one of the first like political things they ever did on MTV back in the day was Rock the Vote. You'd have all Dee Snider and John Bon Jovi getting on TV, and you go out, and even Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, you get out and you go and vote and you get involved. And it was a successful campaign, bringing music, involving musicians to kind of influence people to go out and vote. It worked, and MTV's got I guess a new thing going, and I'll have to look into that maybe on a future episode. But I do kind of find it interesting that Woodstock, going back 51 years now, it was a very political thing just to get it put on, and so much like we were talking that people were trying to stop the event from taking place. We don't want these hippies coming to our town. 50 years ago, people they were all against drugs. 50 years later, they're trying to legalize drugs for everybody. It's a very different world, but yet, political issues are still the heart of what's going on in the world.
That's right. And to remember, if we go back 51 years now. And in fact, it was the 15th, 16th, 17th. So I was there on the 17th of August, 1969 for the entire day. And that's the point in time when politics invaded music. It started to come into music. You had a few of them, the folk singers from Folk Singer Day. The first day was mostly folk day.
Yeah.
Joan Baez, who was any more political than her?
Yeah. At the time. Yeah.
The Airplane, who was starting to invoke a lot of politics in their lyrics, as we already said on their segment. But there were so many who started to, Tim Hardin and even Richie Havens talking about social issues. So those things all are important as far as the history of music to make us all aware of social issues. And politics is the extension of whose social issues who do you want to be like?
And you know, it's interesting because
what politics is. Do you want to be like me, or do you want to be like him?
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because again, on a future episode, we'll be getting really in depth about Jimi Hendrix. He's another artist that played Woodstock, but it's interesting because, like, when he played Woodstock, or anytime I've read an article or an interview he did, in the past, there wasn't really too much specified on the first major black guitar hero or anything like that. It's just the guy was a great musician, there was,
and in fact, just to wrap this stuff up, the music of the '60s, throughout the '60s, we mentioned this on one of our first times that we had a discussion. Was the music of the '60s everything was on AM radio. Everything. We had the Beatles and the Stones and the British Invasion. You still had some of that schmaltzy pop music that was being made, and you had Motown. And from Motown came everything else between all these different styles of music. We had it all.
Yeah,
you have Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and the Beatles and the Stones and the Temptations and the Four Tops and the Supremes and the Doors and Cream and the Who. You had the best of everything.
Yeah, you had all that great music, and the funny. I mean, you lived at the right time, Vince. And the funny thing about it was, like, that was just. I mean, as you said, that's the soundtrack of your life. And what a great soundtrack to be part of, I mean, and Stevie...
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to relive the 60s in a sense, go watch the TV series called Mad Men. 7th season takes you from 1960 all the way through 1969. Wow. Virtually a year at a time. You get the clothes. You get the way they talk. You get the whole 9 yards. Some of the historic moments that they wrote into the fabric of
TV show
of the scripts.
Oh wow! And
wonderful.
Final thing I'll say on today's episode is this: you mentioned Stevie Wonder, and I've seen videos from when he was known as Little Stevie. And it's quite different from I Just Called to Say I Love You or Part-Time Love or anything like that. So I mean, that was like him in his heyday when he was just getting going.
The man is a genius.
I mean, I don't mean to be bringing this up, but I mean, when you consider what that guy can do on the piano, and he's blind, he just kind of feels around and he does what he does. I mean, that's amazing.
Hey, piano, he plays drums, he plays many other instruments. That he was the only guy on many of his albums. The producer, the director, the writer, the star, the singer, wow is right. He's a whole. He can take a week of these things.
Yeah, well,
as far as I'm concerned, Stevie's the best.
Vince. Once again, you've taken me down a great place in music history where I love to kind of go and visit from time to time. Next week, we will, when we do this, we'll be talking about the Grateful Dead, as you mentioned. So we look forward to that. But before we say goodbye today, Vince, to our audience, anything else you have left to say?
You know what? Just thank you for this opportunity. It's so interesting to be able to bring up these different groups. The era. You're tying some of what I do into it. It's very cool that you give us this outlet, because it's about you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that because like I said, you gave me the great idea to do this, and it started off with just we were going to do one interview, and then at the end of that conversation, I realized two things. Vince, not only were you there, but and did you live and experience Woodstock? And I didn't, but you got great stories to tell, and I got to thinking, how can we just sum this great event, this great historical event, in one episode? I mean, especially I really wanted to shine a light not on just one or two of the bands, but on all of them, because
it's bubbling all over.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Vince, and we'll get to next week. I'll check with you, and we'll do it again. So thanks so much. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You got it, and thanks everybody.
Okay. Bye, Vince. Take care.
Bye.